Hi all, I'm Jecelyn, the DevRel engineer from the Chrome DevTools team. Let's talk about source maps today. Most of us developers have probably used source maps without even realizing it because they work so quietly in the background. Browsers only understand HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. They don't understand Vue, JSX, SCSS, or TypeScript. Build tools like Vite transform your original source code into minified and highly optimized output that the browser can understand. Have you ever wondered how browser DevTools can show the exact line of error in your original source code and even let you set breakpoints and debug it? It's all thanks to the source map. Build tool like Vite generate source maps during the build process. These maps are then used by DevTools to map the optimized code that is served to the browser back to the original source code. This makes debugging much easier. If you want to dive deeper into the source maps, check out my blog post with a fun video that explains it. During local development, Vite enables source maps for JavaScript by default. To enable CSS source maps, which are experimental, you must set css.devSourceMap to true in your Vite config file. To generate source maps for production builds, you must configure the build.sourcemap option in your Vite config file too. If you are using other tools, do check out how to configure them properly to ease your debugging. Here is an example of a source map in JSON format. This source map contains multiple sources, some of which are third-party files that may not be relevant for your debugging. JavaScript frameworks and build tools like Vite use xGoogle-acknowledge field to indicate that these files should be ignored for debugging. DevTools then read this field and use the information to hide irrelevant file, simplifying the stack trace. In the previous console example, DevTools automatically hide all the node modules file in the stack trace, showing only the frames that are related to you. You can still view the hidden frames by expanding them, so there is no worry of missing information. Good news for Vite users. Vite already configures the xGoogle-acknowledge to ignore file in node modules by default, so you get improved stack trace for free. If you want to further customize the acknowledge, you can set the server.sourcemap acknowledge to add more files to it. For example, if you have an assets or third-party utilities folder, you might want to ignore them during debugging. Apart from Vite, Rollout also supports the acknowledge configuration. There is also a Webpack plugin for that. If you are using other build tools that don't support acknowledge, you can still configure that manually in DevTools. In the console, you can right-click on a source file that you are not interested in and add it to the acknowledge. The next time the file is called, DevTools will hide it automatically. In case you want to unhide it, you can easily right-click and unignore it. By the way, not only in the console, you can ignore files or even folders in the sources panel too. Ignore files and folders are grayed out. If you open an ignore file, there is a warning bar at the bottom. You can remove or open the setting to configure options like general and custom exclusion rules. Similarly, you can show and hide ignore frames in the core stack and right-click on the frame to add or remove it from the ignore list. One thing to note about the ignore list, DevTools will ignore the file during breakpoint debugging too. One annoyance when debugging is when you step into irrelevant third-party code. With the ignore list setting, DevTools knows what to skip during code stepping. Do you know the ignore list is recently available in Firefox as well? Check out their release notes to see how to configure that. Source maps are amazing. Here is a few more recent enhancements on source map in Chrome DevTools. If you don't like your page tree mixing up both your original and minified code, you can group them by authored deploy. Authored will list down your original source code, while deploy is the file that the browser reads. Also, previously you might have seen a lot of source map loading warnings in the console. Many of you find it not actionable. Therefore, we removed them from the console since Chrome 117. You can still access these warnings through the Developer Resources tab. We also show a warning in the related source file when you expand it. Also, we launched an experiment recently to help you evaluate your original variables during debugging. For instance, in this TypeScript, we have a coffee and price variable. However, after you build the file, the coffee variable is minified into n and the price is now O. With the experiment, you can evaluate the coffee variable in the console during debugging. Previously, the console threw errors. You needed to type the minified name n to get the coffee name. That is no longer the case. Go to this link to see how you can try it out and give us feedback. If you want to learn more about how DevTools uses source maps, watch this video to find out more. Well, although source maps are amazing, they are not perfect. Your build tool is smart. In this example, the variable grid was optimized away during the build process. The value was directly embedded into the final string output. In this case, when you debug the code, DevTools is not able to infer and display the actual value. This isn't just a challenge for browser DevTools. It also makes code monitoring and post-code analysis harder. This, of course, is a solvable problem. One of the ways is to include the scope information in the source maps like other programming languages do with their debug information. Also, another fun fact, do you know the source map specification is not an official standard? The source map spec is in version 3 since 2011, although the way we develop web applications has changed so much. In addition, source maps generated by different build tools may be slightly different due to the flexibility in the spec. While the flexibility allows customization and potentially lead to a more efficient build, that poses challenge to the source map consumers like DevTools. There are too many variations and there's no clear rules to process the information. The good news is the process of making source map an official standards is currently in progress. TC39 is the standard body. The first step is to harden the specs. There are active discussions happening right now. Go to this link to get involved and find out more. Alright, we have learned a lot about source maps today. Here is the list of resources for you to explore further. Enjoy the rest of the conference and thanks for watching. Ciao!